In the deepest darkness, when doors seem closed and paths blocked, there exists a light that no shadow can extinguish if you've come to this prayer. It wasn't by chance an invisible force has guided you here. Because today, something extraordinary is about to happen in your spiritual journey. This prayer is the key that will unlock what seemed impossible. Saint Michael, the Archangel, the Prince of the Heavenly Hosts, is already by your side, ready to break every spiritual chain that holds you prisoner while your hopes seem to fade. A divine warrior has already moved in your favor, bringing with him the power that makes the armies of darkness tremble. If this prayer is touching your heart, write in the comments, Saint Michael, break my chains and let this divine blessing transform your reality. O mighty Saint Michael, the Archangel, I come before you with an open heart and vulnerable soul, recognizing that there are barriers in my life that my strength alone cannot break down. You, who were chosen by God as the warrior of light, the one who defeated Lucifer and his rebel angels, I direct my most sincere supplication to you in the silence of this prayer. I already feel the rustle of your majestic wings approaching my reality. I contemplate you in your divine glory, with the sword of fire that cuts through darkness, with the shield that reflects the eternal light of heaven, you who stand at the right hand of the Lord, ready to defend his children. Look toward me today, see the invisible walls that surround me, the closed doors that prevent me from advancing, the spiritual bonds that limit my freedom to fly toward my divine destiny. Observe with your penetrating eyes the chains I cannot see, but which I feel weighing on my soul every day. Saint Michael, you who know every spiritual battle, every strategy of the adversary, every deception that can trap a soul, come now with the power conferred upon you by the Most High. Your sword knows no resistance. Your light knows no shadow that can survive it. Your very name is a war cry against every force that opposes God's plan. Who is like God? A question that makes demons tremble and encourages the faithful. I invoke your warrior presence in my life, where there are doors that have been closed for years, that no human key can open. Use your divine sword and cut those spiritual locks where invisible walls exist that separate me from the blessings destined for me. Strike with the force of heaven and reduce every obstacle to dust where spiritual traps hide along my path. Illuminate them with your celestial light, so I may avoid them. Saint Michael the Archangel, you who have been appointed protector of God's people, extend your protection over me. Every negative bond, every dark influence, every energy that blocks the flow of divine grace in my life, may they be dissolved by the celestial fire that emanates from your presence as wax melts before fire. May spiritual barriers dissolve before your angelic majesty. I pray for a tangible miracle in my life, not a simple passing comfort, but a true shifting of spiritual mountains that prevent me from seeing the horizon of divine possibilities. You fought against the dragon and won. My barriers are nothing compared to that. Celestial battle, if you could defeat the ancient serpent, how much more easily could you break down the obstacles blocking my spiritual path at this moment as I pronounce this prayer? I visualize your shining armor, your determined gaze, your majestic wings unfolding above me like a mantle of protection. I hear the sound of your sword cutting through the air, slicing the spiritual knots that have made my life a labyrinth with no exit. I perceive the warmth of your divine presence, melting the frost of immobility that has frozen my steps for too long. O Saint Michael, you who weigh souls on the divine scale, see how heavy my heart is today, not for my sins, which I humbly confess, but for disappointed hopes, for postponed dreams, for prayers that seem to have found no answer. Lift this weight with your supernatural strength, restore divine lightness to my spirit, so I may rise above the circumstances that have kept me anchored to the ground. I spiritually kneel before you, recognizing your authority in the spiritual realm. I do not fight against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of this world of darkness, against the spirits of evil that dwell in the heavenly places. And in this battle, I need your divine intervention. I am not equipped to face such powerful forces alone, but with you by my side, no battle is lost from the start. Saint Michael, whose name means who is like God, Remind me with your presence that no negative force can resist the will of the Most High. If God is for me, who can be against me? And if you, Prince of the heavenly hosts, fight by my side, what barrier could ever remain standing? Your sword of truth cuts through every illusion, every lie, every deception that has clouded my spiritual vision. I ask for your intercession for a specific miracle in my life, that miracle that seems impossible, that situation that seems unsolvable, that problem that has resisted every human solution with humility but with unwavering faith. I ask you to bring this need before God's throne. Wrapped in your powerful intercession, I know that when you speak, heaven listens attentively. I entrust myself completely to your guidance as a soldier follows his commander without hesitation. So I will follow the light you will show me, open hidden paths to me, reveal doors I couldn't see. Give me the courage to cross new thresholds when they open before me. Teach me to recognize divine signs along the way, those small daily miracles that signal your active presence in my life. Saint Michael the Archangel, I ask you to break the chains of self-pity, chronic doubt, paralyzing fear that have held me prisoner. Cut the ties to past wounds that continue to bleed in the present. Free my spirit from limiting beliefs that whisper to me, it's not possible, not for you. It's too late. These voices do not come from heaven. Help me recognize their deceptive origin. May your sword of truth cut away every lie that has taken root in my mind. May your shield reflect away from me every arrow of discouragement and disappointment. May your presence disperse every fog of confusion that prevents me from clearly seeing the path prepared for me as the sun dissolves the morning mist. May your celestial light dissolve any confusion that clouds my spiritual vision. I now visualize the barriers in my life, those walls that seemed so solid and insurmountable, beginning to tremble at your presence. I see them cracking, developing fissures, and finally collapsing like the walls of Jericho at the sound of celestial trumpets. I see the sealed doors beginning to open, first slowly, then swinging wide toward vistas of possibilities I didn't even dare imagine. And through these openings, I already glimpsed the first rays of a new spiritual dawn in my life. Saint Michael, accompany me through these openings. Do not allow fear to make me retreat. When I see new horizons, give me the courage to advance, to claim the spiritual territories that belong to me by divine right, to occupy the spaces that Providence has prepared for me. May your divine courage infuse my human spirit, transforming my hesitation into celestial determination. You who are the guardian of paradise, let me taste, even in this life, a foretaste of heavenly blessings. May the joy, peace, abundance, and fullness that characterize the kingdom of heaven manifest in my earthly existence. As a tangible sign of your powerful intercession, I ask not only for the end of difficulties, but for the beginning of a new season of divine favor. Saint Michael, I pray you create a perimeter of protection around me and my loved ones. May your angelic presence be like a fire surrounding my home, my mind, my heart, preventing any negative energy from penetrating. May your shield repel every spiritual attack, every attempt to sabotage the miracle I am waiting for. As a celestial sentinel, stand guard at the boundaries of my life, blocking access to everything that does not come from God. Prince of the heavenly hosts, command your angels to encamp around me. May they be messengers of good news, bearers of divine solutions, guardians of the gifts God wants to send me. May they guide me toward divine encounters, strategic opportunities, Kairos moments when heaven touches earth in my life. I believe in the reality of angels and their active mission of assistance for God's children. Archangel of light and truth, illuminate my spiritual eyes to recognize the signs of the miracle that is coming. Let me see beyond appearances, beyond immediate circumstances, beyond the limited logic of the world. Teach me to perceive God's movements, even when they seem subtle or hidden. Refine my spiritual senses to capture the celestial frequencies that announce the arrival of new times in my life. Saint Michael, may your courage become mine. May your celestial determination reinforce my wavering will. May your unwavering faithfulness to the Lord inspire my devotion. May your clear vision of the final victory sustain me in moments when the outcome seems uncertain. Transmit to me that divine certainty that allows you to face every battle, knowing already that victory is assured. I pray for an eruption of grace in my life, not drops of blessing, but an impetuous river that sweeps away every residue of limitation, not a brief visit of the divine presence, but a permanent dwelling of the Holy Spirit that transforms my desert into a lush garden where there was aridity. May abundance flourish. Where there was silence, may praise resound. Where there was stagnation, may divine movement manifest. Archangel Saint Michael, intercede for me with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Present my prayer like incense before the heavenly throne. Add the weight of your angelic intercession to my humble words. May my voice, united with yours, reach the high spheres of heaven and return to me as a manifest answer. I know that when a Prince of Heaven speaks, eternity stops to listen. I firmly believe in the miracle I am asking for. I already see it realized through the eyes of faith. I already feel it present in the embrace of hope. I already celebrate it in the exaltation of love. And I thank you, Saint Michael, for being the divine instrument through which this wonder will take shape in my reality. My gratitude is not conditioned on the visible outcome, but on the invisible certainty that you are already working. I commit, before you and before God, not to waste the miracle I will receive, not to take for granted the grace that will be granted to me to testify to the power of your intercession, to live in a manner worthy of the doors that will be opened and the paths that will be revealed to me. The gift I will receive will become a blessing for others, multiplying in its divine impact. Saint Michael, pierce with your celestial lance the heart of unbelief that still dwells in me, that part of me that doubts, that rationalizes the impossible, that puts limits on what God can do. Help me develop an adamantine faith, resistant to every attack, transparent to divine light, precious in the eyes of the Lord. A faith that does not waver in the face of the apparent delay of the answer. Prince of Angels, bring the flame of hope where my enthusiasm has been extinguished. Rekindle the dreams I had abandoned, because they seemed too bold. Awaken the spiritual gifts that lie dormant within me, waiting to be activated by your powerful presence. May nothing that God has deposited in my being be wasted or remain unexpressed. Saint Michael the Archangel, fight for me when I am too tired to fight. Speak for me when I can no longer find words to pray. Believe for me when my faith falters under the weight of prolonged trials. Hope for me when the future seems an unreachable horizon. You were created to be a divine ally of humanity. Today, I claim this alliance in my life. Celestial warrior, teach me strategic patience, that patience which is not resigned passivity, but vigilant waiting and constant preparation. Help me discern when it is time to advance with boldness, and when it is time to wait in silence for the waters to part before me. Give me the wisdom to recognize God's timing, those perfect moments when heaven and earth align to produce the miracle. Saint Michael, purify my intentions with your celestial fire. May the reasons for which I ask this miracle be in harmony with the divine will. I do not seek prosperity for selfishness, but to be a channel of blessing. I do not seek healing only for personal comfort, but to serve better. I do not seek liberation only for my relief, but to become an instrument of liberation for others. Align my desires with God's eternal plan. You who constantly see the face of God, bring me a reflection of that glory, a gleam of that majesty that transforms my perception of what is possible, an echo of that voice that calls into existence what does not exist, a fragment of that power that sustains the universe. May I experience, through your intercession, a tangible manifestation of supernatural reality. Mighty Archangel, uproot every root of bitterness that has developed in the soil of my heart due to past disappointments, those experiences in which I felt abandoned, betrayed, forgotten, even by God, those seemingly ignored prayers that have left scars of resentment. Heal this wounded land with the balm of your celestial presence, so it can welcome new seeds of trust and hope. Saint Michael, Ask the Lord to restore my inner altar, that sacred place within me where communion with the divine should be constant, and clean this sanctuary from the rubble of indifference. From the dust of routine, from the residues of superficial worship, rekindle the sacred fire that should never go out, so that my life becomes a continuous offering pleasing to God, warrior of light. Help me see my current difficulties in the perspective of eternity. Those mountains that seem so imposing today will be barely visible when I look back from the other shore of eternity. Those problems that now occupy my entire mental horizon will reveal themselves as opportunities for growth in the divine plan. Lend me your celestial eyes to contemplate my situation from the perspective of eternity, Saint Michael. Inspire in me authentic praise, even before seeing the miracle manifested praise that is not negotiation to obtain favors, but genuine expression of trust in God's immutable character. Teach me to thank in advance, knowing that who has promised is faithful, and that what has been declared in the spiritual realm will inevitably manifest in the physical realm at the appropriate time. Prince of Angels, when the miracle arrives, and it will arrive, I am certain, help me recognize it. Sometimes the divine answer comes in forms I had not imagined, through channels I had not considered. At times that seems surprising. Sharpen my spiritual perception to recognize God's hand, even when it operates in unexpected ways, or through unlikely people, Saint Michael. While I await the manifestation of the miracle, make me useful in God's kingdom. Do not allow waiting to become an occasion for spiritual stagnation or sterile self-pity. Guide me toward opportunities for service, for testimony, for growth that prepare the ground for the blessing that is coming. The time of waiting can be a time of precious preparation, Archangel of God. If there are lessons I must learn through this situation of blockage, help me grasp them with humility and openness. If there are areas of my life that require adjustment or purification before the doors open, illuminate them with your penetrating light. I don't just want a change in external circumstances, but a profound transformation that makes me worthy of the blessings I am seeking. Saint Michael, you who are considered the patron and protector of the universal church, extend your protection to the community of faith to which I belong. May it be a place of authentic encounter with God, of genuine fraternal relationships, of continuous spiritual growth, a safe refuge from life's storms, but also a sending center for missionaries to a world in need of divine light. Celestial guardian, particularly protect my mind, that battlefield where many spiritual wars are won or lost. Shield my thoughts from insinuations of defeat, from suggestions of abandonment, from catastrophic projections about the future. Instead, fill my mind with thoughts of faith, visions of victory, divine promises that nourish my soul even in the darkest moments. Saint Michael, help me persevere in prayer even when answers seem to delay, to continue knocking even when the door seems sealed, to seek even when the treasure remains hidden, to believe even when visible evidence seems to contradict invisible promises. Perseverance is often the key that unlocks the most powerful miracles. Prince of the celestial armies, help me understand that sometimes delay is not denial, but preparation, that God is orchestrating circumstances, moving people, aligning resources for a more glorious manifestation than I could have imagined. The time of waiting is not time lost, but precious investment for a more abundant harvest. Saint Michael, teach me to use the spiritual authority that has been conferred on me as a child of God to declare divine promises with confidence, to resist the attacks of the adversary with firmness, to command mountains to move in the name of Jesus, to live not as a passive victim of circumstances, but as an active ambassador of the kingdom of heaven on earth. Archangel of fire and light, purify my words. Too often, I have pronounced words of death over my situation, words of doubt about my calling, words of limitation about my future. Help me speak in alignment with heaven, to declare what God says about me, my situation, to prophesy life even in the valleys of dry bones of my experience. Saint Michael, break every generational curse that might weigh on my family, those repetitive patterns of failure, illness, poverty, or conflict that seem to pass from one generation to another like an unwanted inheritance. Interrupt these chains with your divine sword. so that I can begin a new genealogical line marked by blessing, health, prosperity, and peace, Prince of the angelic hosts. Remind me that I am not alone in this battle beyond your powerful presence. There are other believers who are fighting similar battles, who can offer support, understanding, and encouragement along the way. Guide me toward these divine connections, these strategic traveling companions that God has prepared to sustain me in moments of weakness. Saint Michael, help me recognize that sometimes the most difficult barriers to break down are not external ones, but those I have built myself. Walls of pride that prevent asking for help. Fortresses of self-sufficiency that exclude divine intervention. Trenches of fear that limit my ability to risk in faith. Help me dismantle these interior fortifications that prevent the eruption of grace in my life. Archangel of truth, help me discern the voices I listen to in this time of waiting for the miracle. Many voices compete for my attention. Voices of discouragement, voices of haste, voices of compromise. Refine my spiritual hearing to recognize the voice of the Good Shepherd amid the cacophony of contradictory suggestions, following only that guidance that leads to green pastures and still waters. Saint Michael, while I await the miracle that will break my barriers, make me aware of the barriers I can already begin to demolish with the tools at my disposal, those concrete actions, those small steps of obedience, those gestures of faith that prepare the ground for the greater divine intervention. My responsibility and God's supernatural action work in harmony, not in opposition. Warrior Prince, teach me the strategy of praise as a spiritual weapon. As the walls of Jericho fell at the sound of trumpets and the shouts of God's people, may the barriers in my life yield before the persistent expression of my trust in God. Praise is not only gratitude for what has already happened, but prophetic declaration of what is about to manifest through faith. Saint Michael, I also entrust to you the people I love who are going through their personal battles, my family members who struggle with illnesses, addictions, financial or relational difficulties, my friends who seek direction, comfort, or liberation. Extend your protection and intercession over them, breaking the chains that hold them prisoner and opening paths of hope before their steps. Archangel of God, as I conclude this prayer, I lay at your feet every anxiety about how or when the miracle will manifest. I surrender to the divine wisdom that knows the perfect time and the perfect way to respond to my need. This surrender is not passive resignation, but active trust that recognizes that God's thoughts are higher than my thoughts, and His ways higher than my ways. Saint Michael the Archangel, as I conclude this prayer, I already feel something moving in the spiritual world. I feel the rusty bolts beginning to slide. I feel the ground trembling under the weight of your warrior presence. I feel the atmosphere charged with divine possibilities. As a spiritual sentinel, I remain vigilant, attentive to the first signs of the miracle that is arriving like dawn after a long night. I thank you for your faithfulness, for your readiness to rush to the aid of those who invoke you with sincerity of heart, for your eternal mission to defend God's people and defeat the forces that oppose the divine plan. Your constancy through the millennia gives me confidence that today, even for me, you will mobilize the celestial resources necessary for my spiritual breakthrough in this sacred moment. I bow before the majesty of God that is reflected in your glorious presence. I welcome with gratitude the miracle that is about to manifest in my life. I embrace with faith the new paths that they will open before me. What was blocked will flow freely. What was hidden will come to light. What was impossible will become testimony of the divine power operating through your intercession. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him. We humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world seeking the ruin of souls. This ancient prayer still resonates with power in spiritual corridors, attracting your attention and your decisive intervention in our lives. Saint Michael, bearer of the sword of fire, cut every negative bond in my life today, those toxic connections with people, situations, or habits that drain my spiritual energy and hinder my progress toward divine destiny. With surgical precision, separate what must be separated. so that I can advance free from unnecessary weights and impediments in my spiritual journey, Archangel of truth and justice. Restore what has been stolen from me, the years that the devourer has consumed, the opportunities that have been taken away, the peace that has been disturbed, the health that has been undermined, the relationships that have been damaged. As a celestial judge, issue a verdict of complete restitution, so that I not only recover what I have lost, but receive abundant compensation for every area of deprivation in my life. Saint Michael, while I wait for the miracle to manifest, help me live as if it were already reality in the spiritual realm, to walk with the posture of one who has already received, to speak with the authority of one who already possesses, to think with the mentality of one who already sees. This proactive faith is not presumptuous claim, but alignment with the spiritual reality that precedes the physical manifestation of every divine blessing, Prince of the angelic hosts. If there are spiritual battles ongoing in the heavens regarding my situation, as happened with Daniel, whose answer was delayed by resistance in the spiritual realm, send reinforcements, mobilize legions of angels, if necessary, accelerate the process of victory, remove any block in the far, invisible realm that could delay the manifestation of my liberation. In the visible realm, Saint Michael, awaken in me the spiritual warrior that God created. Too often, I have faced spiritual battles with human strategy, attempting to solve with logic and effort what requires discernment and spiritual authority. Let me put on the full armor of God, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God, Archangel of light. Illuminate areas of deception in my life that might not be evident to my eyes, false beliefs I have accepted as truth, paths that seem right, but lead to spiritual dead ends, subtle compromises that open doors to negative influence. May your penetrating light reveal every dark corner, so that nothing remains hidden that could impede the flow of divine grace. Saint Michael, you are known as the Great Liberator, the one who breaks spiritual and physical chains. Today, I invoke this divine function of yours with particular intensity. May the chains of fear that have kept me in a limited perimeter break under the power of your intercession. May the bonds of you repetitive negative thoughts dissolve like fog in the sun. May the self-imposed restrictions due to past wounds fall like dry leaves, making room for new growth and unprecedented possibilities. Prince of angels, teach me to cooperate with the grace you are releasing in my life. Show me the concrete steps I must take while you fight the invisible battles. What forgiveness must I grant? What decision must I make? What habit must I abandon? What spiritual discipline must I embrace? Guide me in this divine dance where my earthly obedience intertwines with your celestial intervention to create the miracle I need. Saint Michael, guardian of divine wisdom, grant me the gift of discernment in this time of transition. As doors open and new paths reveal themselves before me, I will need supernatural wisdom to navigate unexplored territories. Show me which opportunities to embrace and which to avoid, which relationships to cultivate and which to let go, which commitments to take on and which to decline. May every decision be in harmony with the divine destiny that awaits me beyond the barriers you are breaking down. Archangel of truth, dissolve any veil of illusion that might distort my perception of reality. Too often, I see circumstances through lens of fear, distrust, pessimism that color everything in dark tones. Lend me your celestial eyes to see the truth, that I am unconditionally loved, that I am constantly guided, that I am divinely equipped, that I am destined for victory and not defeat. Regardless of temporary appearances, Saint Michael, while I await the visible manifestation of the miracle, keep alive in me the flame of hope, that sacred fire that illuminates even the darkest night, that warms even the coldest heart, that signals even in the most violent storm that the harbor is near. Hope is not naive optimism, but deep anchoring to the certainty that God keeps his promises and that you, his faithful messenger, will not withdraw until your mission in my life is completed. Prince of the angelic hosts, intervene in my relationships, those that need to be healed. Heal them, those that need to be restored. Restore them, those that need to be transformed. Transform them, those that need to end. Conclude them with peace, those that need to begin. Start them with wisdom. Relationships are often the context in which the most significant barriers rise or fall in our lives. Touch this dimension with particular attention, Saint Michael. You who constantly contemplate the face of God, help me maintain this same intimate connection with the divine even in daily battles. Sometimes I am so absorbed in strategies to overcome barriers that I forget who is actually breaking them. Down-center me again in the most important relationship, that with the creator of the universe, from which naturally flows every liberation, healing, and restoration. Archangel of divine protection, watch over my dreams, not only the nighttime ones. Protect them from negative influences and fill them with divine visions, but also those of the heart. Those sacred aspirations that God Himself has planted in me. Protect them from the cynicism of the world, from past disappointments, from the practical downsizing we often impose on divine desires. Keep these dreams pure, vibrant, and aligned with the celestial destiny prepared for me, Saint Michael. While you break down old barriers, protect me from new ones I might unconsciously build. Barriers of success that generate self-sufficiency. Barriers of new habits that replace old ones, but are equally limiting. Barriers of unrealistic expectations that inevitably lead to disappointment. Let me remain in that sacred space of dependence on God and openness to His continuous guidance, warrior prince. When the miracle arrives, because it will arrive, I am certain, teach me to manage it with wisdom and humility. Sometimes the blessing itself can become a more difficult test than deprivation. If it is not administered with a pure heart and generous hands, may I use every resource, every opportunity, every open door, every restored relationship not only for my benefit, but for the extension of God's kingdom and for the blessing of others who are still fighting the battles I have overcome. Saint Michael the Archangel, guardian of the gate of paradise, open for me 2 doors that no man can shut. Doors of divine opportunities, doors of strategic connections, doors of abundant resources, doors of significant influence, doors of accelerated growth, and simultaneously closed doors that no man can open. Doors of persistent temptation, doors of toxic relationships, doors of futile distractions, doors of paths that seem promising but lead away from my true destiny. Archangel of eternal truth, help me recognize that sometimes the greatest miracle is not the elimination of the barrier, but the transformation that occurs in me as I learn to face it. Some mountains are not moved, but we are given the strength to climb them, acquiring spiritual muscles and elevated perspectives that we would never have developed on flat ground. If this is the divine way for some of my current difficulties, give me the grace to embrace it with gratitude rather than resistance. Saint Michael, as your sword cuts the visible and invisible chains in my life, teach me to live in the freedom won at great cost. Freedom is not absence of structure, but presence of divine purpose. It is not doing what I want, but having the ability to choose what is best. It is not exemption from responsibility, but empowerment to fulfill my calling. May I honor your liberating intervention by living fully in the glorious freedom of God's children. Prince of the heavenly hosts, break the power of negative words spoken over me, by others or by myself, those limiting declarations that have become self-fulfilling prophecies. You will never make it. This is too much for you. Your family has always been like this. It's too late now. Erase these harmful recordings and replace them with divine truth about my value, potential, calling, and timing in my life. Saint Michael, I thank you in advance for the miracle you are working. Anticipatory gratitude is not presumption, but supreme expression of faith. Recognizing as accomplished what has been promised today, I choose to enter this sacred space of thanksgiving, celebrating not only what you will do, but what you are. Faithful, powerful, attentive, tireless in your divine mission of protection and liberation for God's children. Archangel of celestial light, illuminate the path before me. I do not ask to see the entire journey. Sometimes too much clarity would eliminate the need for faith. But the next step, that strategic move I must make today to align myself with the miracle you are preparing, a ray of your divine light, is sufficient to illuminate the stretch of road I must travel at this moment, while the rest will be revealed at the appropriate time, Saint Michael. As your divine sword cuts the spiritual chains in my life, I ask for a clean and complete cut, not a partial liberation that leaves residues of limitation, not a temporary opening that closes at the first difficulty, not a momentary relief followed by relapse. Your work is perfect and definitive. May the freedom I am about to experience through your powerful intercession be so as well, Prince of Angels. Make me aware of the spiritual allies you have arranged around me, people of faith who can pray with me, wise mentors who can guide me, traveling companions who can support me, witnesses of miracles who can inspire me. I am not destined to fight this battle alone. Even if sometimes solitude seems my only company, open my eyes to see the divine community you have orchestrated for my support, Saint Michael, defender of truth in every age. Help me remain anchored to eternal truth in this time of waiting and transition, to not chase quick solutions offered by dubious sources, to not compromise eternal principles for temporary results, to not exchange substance for appearance, depth for immediacy, authenticity for convenience. The miracle I desire must come through divine ways, not through human shortcuts. Archangel of divine protection, spread your celestial mantle over my loved ones as I go through this period of transformation. Sometimes the most intense spiritual battles have repercussions on those we love. Protect them from any backlash, from any diversionary attack, from any attempt of the adversary to strike at me. Through them, may your supernatural peace envelop my family like an impenetrable shield during this time of spiritual warfare and divine breakthrough. Saint Michael, help me recognize that some barriers in my life might have been placed by God Himself, not to limit me, but to protect me, not to punish me, but to prepare me, not to frustrate me, but to form me. Give me the wisdom to discern which obstacles must be broken down with spiritual authority and which divine boundaries must be respected with humble submission. Closed door represents an opposition to overcome. Some are protections to honor, Prince of the angelic hosts. Intercede for my physical health while you fight for my spiritual freedom. Body and spirit are interconnected in mysterious ways. Often spiritual chains manifest as physical symptoms, and spiritual liberations bring healing to the body. May your divine sword cut not only the invisible bonds that limit my soul, but also the roots of disease, pain, chronic fatigue, or dysfunction that have found fertile ground in my body because of these spiritual oppressions. Saint Michael, champion of divine justice, reestablish balance in areas of my life where I've suffered injustice, situations in which I've been defrauded, slandered, undervalued, ignored, or abused. I do not seek human revenge, but divine reparation, that superabundant restoration that not only compensates for the loss, but transforms the wound into testimony, the damage into platform, the subtraction into multiplication. With the scale of celestial justice in your hands, weigh my case and pronounce a verdict of divine favor. Archangel of liberation, break not only the external chains that limit me, but also the internal ones that hold me back. Dysfunctional thought patterns, self-sabotaging beliefs, irrational fears, compulsive habits, emotional dependencies, unhealthy attachments. Sometimes the most insidious enemy is not outside, but inside. Those mental prisons that continue to hold me even when external circumstances have changed. Free my mind as you free my path, so that I can advance without internal or external obstacles. Saint Michael, protector of spiritual travelers, accompany me in the passage from one season to another. Transitions are often moments of particular vulnerability, when we leave the familiar but are not yet established in the new, when old structures have been demolished, but new ones are not yet completed. During this sacred interval between the no longer and the not yet, wrap me in your wings of protection, guiding me safely through unexplored lands toward the fullness of the divine destiny that awaits me. Warrior Prince, help me maintain momentum after the initial breakthrough. Too often, I have experienced momentary liberations followed by relapses, temporary openings followed by new closures, advancements followed by regressions. Teach me to consolidate victories, to stabilize conquered territories, to build permanent structures on the foundations just revealed. The true miracle is not just the opening of the door, but the ability to walk consistently through it toward a new dimension of life. Saint Michael, guardian of divine secrets, reveal to me strategic truths that have been hidden, waiting for this moment, understandings I could not have received before because I wasn't ready, insights that become accessible only at a certain level of spiritual maturity, revelations that are reserved for specific seasons of the divine plan. Now that barriers are falling, may veils of misunderstanding also fall from my eyes, allowing me to see clearly the path to follow. Archangel of fire and power, fill with divine passion the spaces that are opening in my life. Nature abhors a vacuum. If liberated areas are not filled with divine presence, other influences might try to occupy them. Flood every inch of reconquered territory with the Spirit of God, with purifying fire, with fresh anointing, with holy zeal, so that no neutral space remains that the enemy could claim in the future. Saint Michael, you who witnessed the creation of the universe and saw God transform chaos into order, emptiness into fullness, darkness into light, bring this same creative power into the devastated areas of my life where there has been destruction. Begin a process of divine recreation where there has been waste. Initiate a supernatural recovery where there has been death. Whisper again, "Let there be life," and watch as new possibilities emerge from the ashes of lost dreams. Prince of the heavenly hosts, prepare my heart for the miracle that is coming. Do not allow me to miss it through inattention, to misunderstand it through prejudice, to undervalue it through familiarity, to waste it through ingratitude. Sensitize my spirit to recognize the divine moment when it arrives, that celestial kairos in which eternity intersects time and infinite possibilities. Condense into a single moment of sacred opportunity. Saint Michael, while I await the opening of new paths in my life, help me walk faithfully on those that have already been revealed to me, to be diligent in small responsibilities before receiving greater ones, to demonstrate faithfulness in limited resources before abundant ones arrive, to cultivate character in darkness that will qualify me to bear the light. The miracle I seek is not just a gift to receive, but also a prize to earn through faithfulness in small things. Archangel of truth, accompany me in the delicate process of letting go of what must be abandoned to embrace what is coming. Old identities that no longer serve my divine destiny, relationships that have completed their purpose in my life, methods that were useful in the past but now limit my growth. Comfort zones that were once places of healing but have now become golden prisons. Teach me the sacred art of conscious release, creating space for the new gifts that heaven is about to deliver. Saint Michael, general of the heavenly army, teach me to maintain a posture of victory even before seeing tangible evidence, to declare triumph while still in battle, to celebrate the harvest while still sowing, to speak of abundance while navigating scarcity. This is not denial of reality, but affirmation of a higher truth, that in the spiritual realm, victory has already been secured and is simply manifesting in the physical realm according to divine timing. Prince of angels, remind me that the miracle I seek has a purpose greater than my personal satisfaction. It is destined to become testimony of God's power, encouragement for other fighters, evidence of the Lord's faithful character, instrument for the expansion of the kingdom. Keep this broader purpose before my eyes, so that I may receive the gift with responsibility and use it with intentionality, multiplying its impact well beyond the boundaries of my individual life. Saint Michael, in these final moments of prayer, intensify your intercession for me. Gather all the fragments of faith that are scattered in my heart, even if small as mustard seeds, and present them before God's throne as a precious offering. Join your powerful voice to my trembling voice. Add your celestial authority to my humble request. Wrap my prayer in your flaming wings and carry it to the high spheres of heaven, where divine decisions are made and eternal decrees are issued. If this prayer has touched your soul, know that something powerful has already begun to move in the spiritual world, but your journey of blessings is just beginning. The next prayer, which is appearing on the screen right now, might be the next step to unlock even more victories in your life. Click and continue to receive what heaven has prepared for you, Saint Michael, guardian of eternal light. Thank you for listening to my prayer. Thank you for the miracle that is coming. Thank you for the barriers that are crumbling. Thank you for the paths that are opening. My gratitude is as infinite as the stars that adorn the mantle of heaven that you defend with such nobility. With a trusting heart and renewed spirit, I conclude this prayer, knowing that you have already begun to move in my favor. The chains are already falling, the doors are already opening, miracles are already on their way, and I prepare to receive with gratitude and humility what your powerful intercession is about to manifest in my life. Amen.